बोलले काय नाही हाच डायरेक्शन देतो.
Dandot Pranam, Prabhuji and Mataji. I'm sorry for the delay. Actually, our Chari Prabhu's father passed away yesterday. So I think yesterday morning he went to India. So today he requested to do some kirtan. So we were in the temple, Gaur Arti. We were doing some kirtan for him on Zoom. That's why we joining late today. Okay, so we will sing one song. It's by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, very wonderful song. And we will read the translation first and then we will sing. When the rising sun appeared in the east, the jewel of the twice born, Lord Gaura Sundar awakened, and taking his devotees with him, he went all over the countryside, towns, and villages. So, this is like Mahaprabhu waking up in the morning as the sun appeared. Mahaprabhu got up and then he took all the devotees with him and he went to all the villages, towns, and countrysides performing Sankirtan. The mridanga's khol resounded tathai tathai, and the jhanja, large metal kartals that looked like small cymbals, in that kirtan played in time. Lord Gauranga's golden form slightly trembled in ecstatic love of God, and his footbells jingled. So this is like mridangas, kartals, they played. The Lord is going to various countryside towns and villages performing Sankirtan. And as he started Sankirtan, his golden form trembled in ecstasy and his footbells jingled. All the devotees chanted the names Mukunda, Madhava, Yadava, and Hari their mouths being filled with the vibrations. They would announce to the still sleeping people, "You spend your night uselessly sleeping and your days decorating your bodies. You have achieved such a rare human body, but you do not care for this gift. You remain not serving the darling of Yashoda and slowly fall through your last moments of to death. With with every rising and setting of the sun, a day passes and is lost. Then why do you remain idle and not serve the Lord of the heart? This temporary life is full of various miseries. Take shelter of the holy name as your only business. To penetrate the darkness of ignorance and bless everyone's heart, the holy name has risen like the shining sun. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name of Krishna. There is nothing but the name to be had in the 14 words. It has filled the soul of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, something about starting with Mahaprabhu performing Sankirtan in every town and village with his devotees, dancing in ecstasy, and then glories of the holy name. So, we will sing this. उड़िलो आरुणा पूरब भागे विचामणि गौरा अमनि जागे उड़िलो आरुणा पूरब भागे द्विजमणि गौरा अमनि जागे भकत समूहा लोइयो साथे गेला नगर ब्राजे उड़िलो अरुणा पूरब भागे द्विजमणि गौरा अमनि जागे भगत समूह लोइयो साथे गेला नगर ब्राजे तथाई तथाई भजलो खोला. Actually, I'm forgetting the tune. Does anyone remember the tune to sing this song?
Prabhuji, Samsara Dava song tune, I guess. Samsara Dava annala.
Can you sing the first line?
Not sure, Prabhu. I'll just try. उदिलो अरुणा पुरबभागे द्विजमणि गौरा अमनि जागे. Not
Okay.
sure, Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah, I think this sounds right. Thank you, Mataji. I will try this. उड़िलो आरुणा पूरब भागे द्विजमणि गौरा अमनि जागे. Okay, I think I cannot sing this song, so I will just sing Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jayo Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha, Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Shri Radha, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Shri Radhe, Nitai 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 Gaurango, Nitai 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 Gaurango, Nitai 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 Gaurango, Nitai Gaurango, Jayo Gaura Hari, Jai Sachidananda Gaura Hari, Jai Sachidananda Gaura Hari, Jai Sachidananda Gaura Hari, Jai Sachidananda Gaura Hari, Patita Pavana Gaura Hari, Patita Pavana Gaura Hari, Patita Pavana Gaura Hari, Patita Pavana Gaura Hari, Prabhupada, Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Sorry, I will be more prepared with this Vaishnava song next time. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantika Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवजनम नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखम करोति वाचालम भंगुम लंगायते गिरिम यत्कृपा तमहं वंदे श्री गुरु दीनतारिणम परमानंद माधवम श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर। Okay, so this is the last thing we discussed. Thus, following the footsteps of Maharaj Pratap Rudra and other devotees, we should learn to worship everything belonging to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is referred to by Lord Shiva as Tadiya Nam. In Padma Puran, it is said, Aradhananam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param Tashmat Parataram Devi Tadiyanam Samarchanam. O Devi, the most exalted system of worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. Greater than that is the worship of Tadiya or anything belonging to Lord Vishnu. So this is something where we stopped last time. Now there is we are discussing about with reference to Maharaj Pratap Rudra. Maharaj Pratap Rudra sent a request letter to Sarvabhaumatacharya that please arrange a meeting for me to with Lord Chaitanya. And Sarvabhaumatacharya replied that it seems to be a very difficult task because Lord Chaitanya is not willing to meet a king. Then Maharaj Pratap Rudra, he made another request. He said, um, um, please show this letter to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, and if they see the sincerity in me, then all the devotees together can go and petition on my behalf to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a humble request, and if Lord Chaitanya is not willing to give me audience, then I shall give up my kingdom. And then Samo Bhattacharya, he went to Nityananda Prabhu, Advaitacharya, and Mukunda, and all the devotees were there. When devotees saw the letter from Maharaj Pratap Rudra, they were very much surprised to see the devotion of Maharaj Pratap Rudra towards Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they all went to Lord Chaitanya and they all stood quiet. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them that there is something that you want to share, but why aren't you speaking anything? Nityananda Prabhu, having quite free, frank relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, yes, we have something to tell you, but we don't know how you will behave. You may not like it, but here is a subject matter. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said that when discussion was going on, devotee said, if we tell to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu may leave Nilachal, and then how will we survive? Then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said that, well, we are not going to glorify, we are not going to tell that Lord needs to meet the king. We will just say the good qualities of the king. But Nityananda Prabhu is a Vigyasura, completely independent. So he said, my lord, we all have something to say, but we don't know how you will receive it. But here is the subject matter. And the subject matter is, if you don't see the king, he will give up the kingdom, and he won't survive. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart already melted. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because all the devotees came together, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually expressed his willingness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if Damodar give me permission, then then I shall go to Cuttack and see the king. Do you all want me to go to Cuttack and see the king? Well, if Damodar give me permission, then only I shall do so. Then Damodar Pandit, he said, my lord, who am I? You are completely independent, and seeing your soft heart towards the king and seeing the devotion of the king, I am sure um, you will meet and touch and embrace the king very soon. So Nityananda Prabhu said, who in the three world have the guts to request your honor to go to Cuttack just to see the king? No, this shall never happen. But we also want the king to be satisfied. So if you can give a uttari, a chadar of yours, because the paraphernalia of Lord is considered as non-different from the Lord. And this is where the last verse comes, where Lord Shiva said that even higher than worship of the Lord is the tadiya of the Lord. So we saw that the chadar was taken through Govinda, the personal servant of Lord Chaitanya, and it was given to Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu ordered Govinda, bring a uttari, outer garment of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Nityananda Prabhu handed it over to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sent it to the king. When the king received the chadar of the Lord, the king worshipped the chadar just like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we had some discussion over there that how everything that belongs to the Lord is completely transcendental and have the same qualities. And then we had some discussion, and then we discussed, this is 2 weeks back, that's why I'm summarizing. And then we discussed how our progress in Krishna consciousness is based on realizations. And at our stage of Krishna consciousness, we accept everything the scripture says as it is, and then we have faith. And as we advance in our Krishna consciousness, based on our advancement in Krishna consciousness, everything that we have heard becomes a fact. That's why um, um, it's all about advancement, and then the whole Vedic knowledge will be ours. And then we discuss how the um, um, the realization is something, or the true knowledge is something that comes from within our heart. It's not something that can be received. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we can receive the knowledge from the words of spiritual master, but by the practice of devotional service, in due course of time, it becomes realized. And then we saw one of the words that Srila Prabhupada always quotes, that to those who have implicit faith in the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord, the Vedic knowledge is revealed within our heart. So, and we discussed about the importance of worshipping our spiritual master, because um, it's not something that Krishna consciousness is not something that can be imbibed externally. It is something that has to be awarded to us. If Guru becomes merciful unto us, then it is realized. Um, so Srila Prabhupada also says our advancement Krishna consciousness is not dependent upon external process of hearing and chanting, but it is dependent upon the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And what attracts the mercy of Guru and Krishna is our consciousness, because Srila Prabhupada said that Guru and Krishna are always in our heart. What we are thinking, what is our mood, the consciousness is what attracts the mercy. And many times, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, cultivating of bhakti is like, he compared it to a gardener. A gardener, we received a Bhakti Lata beach from Shri Guru. and it is stored in our heart, and then it is nourished by the process of hearing and chanting. And when it is nourished by the process of hearing and chanting, which is compared to the water, the weeds also grows. And if we water the weeds, then we go into external consciousness, and then the bhakti will not be nourished. The internal devotion will not be nourished, and only externalities will grow. The weeds will grow. And my spiritual master, he says, most of us are watering the weeds, and the weeds, and what are those weeds? Detailed understanding is given by Raghunath Das Goswami in his book Manasiksha, um, beginning with lust, envy, pride, greed, and then going up to desire from fame, prestige, duplicity, and various factors. And the Bhakti Lata is actually has to be, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, put a fence around your Bhakti Lata, because and very carefully grow the Bhakti Lata. And it is so subtle, it is so subtle that we ourselves won't realize what is weed and what is bhakti, because they are so mixed up, jumbled up, and that is because the heart is not pure. When the heart is not pure, there are many desires. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahu Shakha Anantascha, in that Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, that devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness, they have Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, a single pointed intelligence. But those who are not pure, their intelligence is many branched. And many branch intelligence means many desires cultivate in the heart, which are not Shuddha Bhakti, which are not that desire to please Guru and Krishna. Um, and when we act on those desires, which are separate from the single pointed desire to please Lord Krishna, to please Srimati Radharani, to please Gurudev, when we act on those external desires, that is what is called watering the weeds. And this force is quite strong within our hearts, because Srila Prabhupada says we have been associating with these weeds since time immemorial. We have been feeding these external desires since time immemorial. And Prabhupada says it takes time to come out of this foreign nature, come out of this foreign nature. Um, if we are focusing on nourishing the Bhakti Lata, then it doesn't matter whether we feel good or not, because there are many factors around it. If you keep watering the Bhakti Lata, progress will be seen over a period of time. That's where Srila Prabhupada says the advancement in Krishna consciousness is depends upon the attitude of the follower. What is our attitude in our progress? So we had long discussion on last time on the importance of taking shelter of Shri Guru and let the revelation comes from within our heart. Bhakti is very simple. I mean, we have to serve Krishna, please Krishna, and Anya Bilashita Shunya, no personal desire. Seems very simple, but when it comes to application, and um, it becomes really difficult. And that's why there is emphasis on Shravan, hearing, because like sometime before we discussed that we cannot solve the problem with the consciousness that creates the problem. So if our consciousness is centered around those external desires, then we cannot act on internal desires or pure bhakti because that's not part of our consciousness. I mean, it's not there. And that's why the external help of Shri Guru and senior devotees, the external help will kind of um, um, bring us to the path. Another thing which can remove the clouds of ignorance from our consciousness is the holy name. The holy name will nourish totally. But the thing is, we don't get nourishment from the holy name because we are not on that level. And when we don't get that kind of nourishment from the holy name, it's very difficult to not act on Bahushakha Anantascha, various other desires. And that's why hearing will center, will bring us to the center, will bring us to the center. So this is like support system, the Vani of our Gurudev, the Vani of Srila Prabhupada, that will bring us to the center, bring us to the center. Otherwise, so easy to deviate. That's why Srila Prabhupada said progress in Krishna consciousness cannot be made without association of devotees, because association will bring us back, bring us back, bring us back. And very good example is Bharat Maharaj, who was quite positive about his action, and he was getting relaxed, slackened in his Krishna consciousness, and he didn't realize that. And he was quite convinced this is the right thing to do. And then if he had association, then he would have been brought back to that consciousness. And bhakti is all internal. You see, 100,000, 5,000, 10 million, everybody is practicing bhakti. But Bhavagrahi Janatana, Krishna is not saying everybody can 16 rounds or more. Everybody offers prasad. Everybody does everything else, follow the four regulatory principles. But then it's all about the consciousness. And it's all about bhakti is an internal cultivation. Okay, so that was somewhere something from the last week, um, where Lord Shiva says higher than worshipping is tadiya, and the reference is the tadiya, the outer garment received by Maharaj Prataparudra, and how he worshipped just like the Lord himself. And now here is another interaction between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. So we see Maharaj Pratap Rudra received mercy in various phases, and the outer garment is one phase, and now we will see here how another phase of mercy was received by the king. Earlier, when Ramananda Roy requested the king to allow him to stay with the Lord, the king immediately gave him permission with great satisfaction. And we see how the king was not envious. This is such a beautiful quality. My spiritual master says, uh, Vaishnava means no envy. I mean, it's beyond my platform because uh, I'm not a realized soul myself. But by hearing, um, like my spiritual master says, Krishna speak through us to us. So our consciousness is, while hearing, we talk to ourselves, and then we hear, and then we talk to ourselves. So here we see the king is so desperate to receive the mercy of the Lord. He's so desperate. And Ramananda Roy has received such mercy of the Lord. just think about it. The king is crying day and night. What one darshan of Lord Chaitanya. He is begging for one darshan. Just can I see the Lord once? He is begging. And Ramananda Roy, the mercy he received is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, you come and live with me. You be my constant companion, Ramananda Roy. And Maharaj Pratap Rudra just want to meet once. And imagine we are so desperate to make progress in Krishna consciousness. And then we see somebody. Now think about it. This is amazing. Ramananda Roy is actually position wise, he's junior. He's the king, and he's just one of the minister under the king. Maharaj Pratap is like topmost position, and Ramananda Roy is, kind of, he's significant, but with respect to the king, he's insignificant. The position of the king, and he went and told the king that Lord Chaitanya wants me to live with him constantly, so I want to resign. And what was the reaction of Maharaj Pratap Rudra? He gave him permission with great satisfaction. It was not out of intellect. Oh no, I should not act on these emotions. This is not good. Guru and Krishna, how do I please? So there is no conflict, internal conflict. My spiritual master says yoga means connecting with Krishna. Yoga. And yoga means the body, mind, and soul are aligned. But it is a very advanced stage where body, mind, and soul are aligned. Because in our cases, I'm talking about myself, the mind is not aligned with the body. In a way, the consciousness, there is an intellect level which is training the mind what to do, what not to do. And this is required at this stage in order to receive mercy, because Srimad Bhagavatam says, those who deal with others with tolerance, compassion, friendliness, they give great satisfaction to the Lord. Those who deal with others with these qualities. Um, so the king was completely aligned. He was a pure-hearted Vaishnava. And when he heard Ramananda Roy saying, Mahaprabhu want me to stay with him, he was greatly satisfied. He was blissful. Um, my spiritual master says, no envy means we are in bliss seeing others progress. Even if we are not able to make any progress in Krishna consciousness, when we see others are progressing very nicely, a person who is non-envious, it gives them great satisfaction and bliss just by seeing others. And person who has that consciousness is very, very pleasing to Krishna. But naturally, this is not something to be mimicked. See, we cannot go back to Godhead, back to spiritual world, till we have that pure consciousness, uh, which is blissful, blissful in any condition, um, free from all material contamination. That's why till that pure consciousness arises, Shuddha Bhakti will not arise. Pure Shuddha Naam will not arise. Krishna will not take residence in our heart till the heart is not purified. And that's why in our Vidhi Marg, there is so much emphasis on very strictly following the principles of hearing and chanting. Because what hope we have, um, by talking about it, we're not going to become pure, but by hearing and chanting, discussing about Lord Chaitanya, about Lord Krishna, by the process, we will become purified. So the king immediately gave him permission with great satisfaction. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard how much great satisfaction Maharaj Pratap Rudra felt and then he told um, Ramananda Roy, I double your salary. It's not like, you are trying to bypass me. You are trying to advance more than me. You want to go further ahead of me. Then I don't like your progress. Nature of envy. But it's like, great satisfaction. Yeah, let this devotee please the Lord. And it's okay if I'm not able to please. I'm so happy for this devotee. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was extremely pleased with Maharaj Pratap Rudra. As for the king himself, he began to solicit Ramananda Roy to make a meeting arrangement. Ramananda Roy, and then he was so happy for Ramananda Roy, and he had only one request. You stay with him, you serve him constantly. For me, just one meeting if you can arrange. I just want to see the Lord once in my life, and that's all. And it's the consciousness which pleases Krishna. It's all internal. Very good example is that milk drinking brahmachari who Mahaprabhu didn't like that he was seeing my dance, and Mahaprabhu became angry and he told him with the harsh word, throw that milk drinking brahmachari out right now. And we see the milk drinking brahmachari was not disturbed, and his consciousness was so pure, he was so pure hearted that he was thinking that, at least I have seen the Lord's dance once and I'm happy with that. And I'm willing to wait for as many lifetimes to see the Lord again. And that consciousness attracted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The king and Ramananda Roy returned together to Jagannath Kshetra, and Sri Ramananda Roy met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is earlier conversation where Ramananda Roy went to Katak and he took permission from the king. The king doubled his salary without any work, and then they both came to Jagannath Puri, and the king naturally cannot see the Lord. He didn't have that permission, and Ramananda Roy went to see the Lord. Sri Ramananda Roy was indeed a diplomatic minister. This is very important point. Um, I personally liked it very much. Sri Ramananda Roy was indeed a diplomatic minister for the king. His general behavior was very expert, and simply by describing the king's love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gradually softened the Lord's mind. So it is described that Ramananda Roy was a diplomat. Now the question comes, is diplomacy good or bad in Krishna's service? So something we will speak just few minutes on that. So his general behavior was very expert, and simply by describing the king's love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gradually softened the Lord's mind. So he was diplomatic, so he spoke and presented King Pratap Rudra in such a way to soften the Lord's heart. He was not in a way straightforward, but he was diplomat. So let's see this aspect. Is diplomacy good or bad? A diplomat in the material world knows how to deal with people, especially in political affairs. Some of the great devotees of the Lord, like Ramananda Roy, Raghunath Das Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, were government officers and had a background of very opulent householder life. Consequently, they knew how to deal with people. So there is something talking about Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport how we see diplomacy in Sanatan Goswami, how we see diplomacy in Raghunath Das Goswami. And the example is when Raghunath Das Goswami was captured, like his father, Majumdar, Govardhan Majumdar and Hiranya Majumdar, father and uncle, they stole money by cheating. So the envious minister, he captured Raghunath Das Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami very diplomatically behaved that I am like your son and you both are like brothers, and in family these things happens and I will help you settle. So in a way he acted with such diplomacy that the envious minister, his heart softened, and then he released Raghunath Das Goswami. So, and then Srila Prabhupada mentions how Sanatana Goswami was so diplomatic that he pleased the jailer when he was in the jail and bribed him with gold coins and then to go and see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he even lied that I am going to go to Mecca and you will get the blessings. And Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they had diplomatic behavior in a way they know how to deal with people, they know how to please people. And Sanatana Goswami was also very considerate about what to speak, how to speak, where to speak, and but everything was used in the service of the Lord. And here we see Ramananda Roy was also speaking in such a way, he was so careful by speaking that he wanted the result that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should be pleased with the king. So in that way, diplomacy, when used in the service of the Lord, is good. For example, okay, so a diplomat in the material world knows how to deal with the people. That's a diplomat, especially in political affairs. Some of the great devotees of the Lord, like Ramananda Rai, Raghunath Das Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Rupa Goswami, were government officers and had a background of very opulent householder life. Consequently, they knew how to deal with people. The diplomacy of Ramananda Roy and entreaties of Samabhattacharya and all the other great devotees succeeded. So here the example of Samabhattacharya was also diplomatic because he wanted Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give his mercy to the king, Maharaj Pratap Rudra. The conclusion is that diplomacy used for the service of the Lord is a form of devotional service. So Prabhupada is telling diplomacy is also a form of devotional service. What is not good is duplicity is not good. Duplicity. So here is something uh, when, okay, try to understand. When bad uses good to do bad, it is called duplicity. And when good uses bad to do good, it is called diplomacy. Um, so basically, duplicity is with a cunning behavior. Duplicity. Um, 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 and diplomacy is we are manipulative, but we are manipulative to serve Lord Krishna nicely. Like we may be diplomatic, and when we meet new people, we say, um, just chant one round and your life will become successful. You don't have to give up anything. So this is diplomacy, because eventually we'll tell them that you give up everything. Like one family I was talking yesterday, and they were very nice, and they started chanting. And yesterday I had a one-on-one conversation with them, and then the conversation came that, "Prabhuji, we saw this in the news, and we watched this movie and we went there." And then I said, yeah, from now onwards, stop watching movies. It is not conducive. And stop going to restaurants. Even don't eat in the temples also, other than ISKCON temple. So I was telling them various things to give up, because they are chanting certain rounds. But we don't say that in the beginning. But once they reach 8-10 rounds, then we tell them. So there is a lot of diplomacy. Diplomacy using Krishna's service means what is required at this point of time to preach. Sometimes we use heavy words, and sometimes we use very soft and mellow. Even if the other person is wrong, time, place, circumstances, we say that is all right. It's okay to compromise with this principle. Yeah, don't worry about it, because sometimes pleasing people is the focus. Is just discrimination. So all the time the diplomacy principle is used for the sake of preaching, to serve Lord Krishna wherever it is required. So it's actually not being straightforward. We are not presenting Krishna consciousness as it is, but we are presenting in a way that people take it. Srila Prabhupada said, doesn't matter how, the result is you have to give them a book. One devotee asked, can we say about this like this and distribute books? Prabhupada said, ye na kina prakarina, somehow or other give my books. And then whatever it takes to give a book. So in that way, diplomacy is good, even if one is not straightforward. But duplicity is when there is an ulterior motive, something for myself, basically. Um, when I am presenting in a way, when there is a hidden motive, which is not pleasing Krishna, which is when I am in the center, in that, then that becomes duplicity. When I am in the center, I am saying some philosophy because I want other person to accept my viewpoint, because then I will be happy. And there the focus is actually I alone. It is not Krishna. Or to prove somebody is wrong because my point has to go forward, or in whichever way, when the center is I, it becomes duplicity. And that is very detrimental to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Duplicity is actually lack of simplicity, but one can be simple and diplomatic. Like Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Ramananda, they are very simple, but they are diplomats. So something between diplomacy versus duplicity. Okay. Utkanthate Pratap Rudra Nare Rahi Bare Ramananda Sadhi Lena Prabhura Mili Bare. Maharaj Pratap Rudra in great anxiety, could not endure not seeing the Lord. Therefore, Sri Ramananda Roy, by his diplomacy, arranged a meeting with the Lord for the king. So, this is how the meeting will be arranged. रामानंद प्रभु पाए कैला निवेदना एक बार प्रताप रुद्रे देखा चरण. Sri Ramananda Roy frankly requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please show your lotus feet to the king at least once. एक बार चरण दर्शन दो किंग को. प्रभु कहे रामानंदा कहा विचारिया राजा के मिली या सन्यासी हना. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, my dear Ramananda, you should make this request after duly considering whether it is befitting for a sannyasi to meet a king. So Ramananda Roy said, my lord, please show your lotus feet to the king. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, please consider your request. See if it is worth, if it is kind of, if it seems right for a sannyasi to meet a king. रामानंद कहे तुम्ही ईश्वर स्वतंत्र कार्य तोमार भया तुम्ही नाह परतंत्र. Ramananda Rai replied, my lord, you are the supreme independent personality. You have nothing to fear from anyone because you are not dependent on anyone. So it is mentioned that Krishna is Abhigya Swarat. So whatever he desires happens, or whatever he wants, he doesn't care. And Krishna actually didn't care in showing love to his devotees, whether it is with the Gopas or with the Gopis or with Mother Yashoda or killing demons. He didn't care about what the world will speak about him or breaking his own vows, like to kill Bhishma Dev. So Krishna didn't care. Abhigya Swarat means whatever he, Bhakta Vatsala, whatever he wants, he does. He doesn't care about others' opinion. But here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in a mood of a Bhakta. So Ramananda Roy said that you are Tumi Ishvara Swatantra. So what fear you have? And you are not dependent on anyone, what others will say. So the king is your devotee and you love him and he is pure hearted. He wants to see your lotus feet and he wants bhakti. You have come to give bhakti. Why you are thinking if it is fit for a sannyasi or not? You are the supreme lord, Abhigya Sarat, so just go and meet the king and give mercy. So in that way he contradicted Lord Chaitanya to show his mercy. When Ramananda Roy addressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu objected, saying, I am not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary human being. Therefore, I must fear public opinion in the three ways, with my body, mind, and words. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come as a devotee to set an example for everyone to follow. As Supreme Lord Krishna, he is carefree. But as living in this world as a devotee, he wants to set a good example. And then he says, I must fear public opinion with my body, minds, and words. Means I should be careful with what I speak. I should be careful with my words. I should be careful with my body, with my mind. And I should fear how will others perceive me. I should fear that. So this is, as a devotee, one has to be careful. And this is something Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Even though Maharaj Janak has no duty to perform and I have no duty to perform, yet I should do it to set a good example. So, and then last week also we were discussing how for a preacher like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or for a sannyasi, their main purpose is to spread the glories of Lord Krishna, and others will listen to them only if others respect them. If the respect is lost, nobody will listen to a preacher. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came because he wanted to be so infallible so that everybody will respect Lord Chaitanya, and that's why he took sannyas. Because when he was in Grahastha Ashram, people were kind of finding, people were criticizing him, some of them. And Mahaprabhu was thinking, I have come to give love of God, and because of their behavior, they're actually degrading down. If they only pay respect to me, I'll give them love of Godhead. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so careful. So if you see today also, Many people, they don't worship Krishna because they don't understand the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna. But nobody actually can find fault in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was so immaculate. That's why, setting an example, we have to be very careful even about public opinion. Our actions should be such that, and Mahaprabhu is showing by his example. Um, um, as soon as the general public finds a little fault in the behavior of a sannyasi, this is Mahaprabhu telling to Ramananda Roy, they advertise it like wildfire. A black spot of ink cannot be hidden on a white cloth. It is always very prominent. So white cloth, little ink, black ink is always prominent. Likewise, a bad image in the character of a sannyasi, it's like, the whole life is ruined. The whole purpose of life for a sannyasi is ruined, because then he cannot preach effectively. So Mahaprabhu is, that's why he's very careful. Ramananda Roy replied, "My dear Lord, you have delivered so many sinful people. This King Pratap Rudra, the king of Orissa, is actually a servitor of the Lord and your devotee. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Jagai Madhai. He went to South India without discrimination. He gave everyone love of Godhead. And Pratap Rudra is actually your own servant and your own devotee. Then why you are not delivering him?" Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "There may be much milk in a big pot, but if it is contaminated by a drop of liquor, it is untouchable." So milk is pure, but if you add one drop of liquor in the milk, the whole milk becomes contaminated. The king certainly possesses all good qualities, but simply by taking up the name king, he has infected everything, because he has the position attached to him that he is a king. That is like a drop of wine in all milk, and the all milk is his devotional qualities, his purity of the heart. Everything about him is perfect, but he is a pure devotee also, but he has the word attached king, and that contaminates everything. So I cannot give him darshan. So Ramananda Roy is putting arguments in a very humble way, diplomatic way, to soften Mahaprabhu's heart, and Mahaprabhu is giving reasoning why he should not see the king. But if you are still very eager for the king to meet with me, please first bring his son to meet me. So this is second um, type of mercy the Lord showed. First he sent Uttari, and now Mahaprabhu told Ramananda Roy, "Okay, if you really want it, then bring Pratap Rudra's son to me." It is indicated in the revealed scriptures that the son represents the father. Therefore, the son's meeting with me would be just as good as the king's meeting with me. And we see that son represents the father even when Balaramji killed with a blade of grass Romaharsan Sutta. And he killed him because Romaharsan Sutta developed pride as a speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the Brahmana said, "We gave him so many blessings that he will live a long life." And then Balamji said, "The son represents the king. So Sutta Goswami, he will be the son and he will live long and he will speak Srimad Bhagavatam." So sons represents the father. So you bring his son and I will give my mercy to the son. Ramananda Roy then went to inform the king about his talks with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and following the Lord's orders, brought the king's son to see him. So then his son came. And if you see, Maharaj Pratap Rudra was so desperate that he is asking Sarva Bhattacharya, he is asking Ramananda Roy. So whoever is in touch with Lord Chaitanya, and who is in touch with the king also, the king is trying from different facets how to get the mercy of um, the Lord. Sundara Rajara Putra Shamala Varana Kishora Vyasa Dirga Kamala Nayana. The prince, just entering upon his youth, was very beautiful. He was blackish in complexion and had large lotus eyes. So it is said that the son was, he was just entering his youth. He was a teenager basically. And he was very beautiful and he was blackish and he has large lotus eyes. So naturally, this reminded Lord of Krishna. Pitambara dhare ange ratna abharana Shri Krishna smarane teha haila udipana. The prince was dressed in yellow cloth. So he was dark, and he wears a yellow cloth, and there were jeweled ornaments decorating his body. Therefore, anyone who saw him would remember Lord Krishna. So these are the qualities of Lord Krishna. Like, we go in the phases of Nam, Roop, Guna, Leela, and somewhere I read that one of the major guna realization of Lord Krishna is we realize the form of Lord Krishna. We are attracted by the beauty of Lord Krishna. Um, and Lord Krishna's beauty is described in great detail by our previous acharyas, like how his skin is reflecting, and he has shark shaped earrings, and the skin of Lord Krishna is so shiny also. It's like, it is said, it is like, it's not like a dark color or a bluish blackish cloud. I mean, it resembles that, but it is bright, like millions of moons. It is glowing like millions of moons. So it's very reflective, such to such an extent that the shark shaped earring reflects in the Lord's cheeks. That kind of reflection. And hairs are curly, small curly hairs, and go all the way up to shoulder. And then wearing um, a turban, decorated with flowers, a flower turban, and with a peacock feather. And especially bluish blackish in color, and bluish blackish is the peacock feather. So that looks very enchanting on Lord Krishna. And the peacock feather is surrounded by the flowers and ornaments that decorates. And then he wears mostly an uttari, and he has a broad chest, and a very deep navel, and very thin waist, very broad chest, and very sturdy. And there is beautiful description, and that's where uh, the gopis, they are overtaken by the beauty of the Lord. It's a guna realization actually, the beauty of the Lord. Um, and it is said that one of the thing that where Lord Krishna surpasses even Lord Vishnu is Roop Madhuri, the sweetness of the beauty of Lord Krishna. And that's what we see in Brahma Samhita. We sing every day when we take darshan. Baraha pidam natavara babu karnayo karnikaram. This is actually the song. This is not the verse from Brahma Samhita. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, where the gopis, when they think about the form of Krishna, they go into ecstasy. And Baraha pidam natavara bapu karnayo karnikaram bibrad vasa kapik karnaka kapisa vai jayanti chamalam. So Barha Pitam. Barha is like and peacock feather. With the peacock feather, dancing posture, Natavara, um, and with Vajayanti garland, and in one hand, left hand, he holds a flute, and right hand he holds a playing lotus, and he yeah. So his beauty is described. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he saw at the boy, so he saw, bluish, darkish, not bluish, but blackish complexion, yellowish pitambari, very great contrast, and wearing a garland also. And Krishna has, like ruby red lips and large lotus eyes. And the most charming feature of Lord Krishna is his smile. His smile is the most enchanting. So the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and here it says Shri Krishna Smaranateha Haila Udipana. Udipana is described by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. Udipana means that which causes ecstasy. Udipana. Like, for example, for gopis, maybe a peacock feather is a udipana, or maybe hearing the flute of Krishna is a udipana. Udipana means the moment the song goes, they go into ecstasy. So udipana. So here it is said udipan, which creates udipan. Like um, what is a triggering point? Like if you see, for example, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the verse described by Gadadhar Pandit uh, to Pundarik Vidyanidhi, when Gadadhar Pandit found externally the fault in Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and then Mukunda told him, recite this verse that which says that Putana came to feed him poison, but he took it as mother's milk and gave him position of a nurse. How merciful is Lord Krishna. Third canto, this comes interaction between Vidura and Uddhava. This verse comes. And then Pratap Rudra Maharaj went into the Udipana ecstasy and started rolling on the ground. So just one trigger and they go into Udipana. It's such a wonderful state to achieve. And yeah, one should desire to achieve those stages of pure devotees. um, so it created Udipana in Lord Chaitanya. He started shivering in ecstasy when he saw um, um, the beauty of the child. Ehi Mahabhagavata Yahara Darshane Brajendra Nandana Smriti Haya Sarva Jane. Here is a great devotee, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. Upon seeing him, everyone can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, son of Maharaj Nanda. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Ei Mahabhagat, he is a Mahabhagat. Upon seeing him, everyone can remember Lord Krishna. Brajendra Nandana Smriti Haya Sarva Jane. His quality is such that Brajendra Nandana Smriti, one can do the smaran on Lord Krishna, Vajendra Nandana. All the people can have that just by seeing him. Kritartha Hailana Ami Ihana Darshane Etabali Puna Tare Kaila Alingane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I have become very much obligated just by seeing this boy. After saying this, the Lord again embraced the prince. So he embraced him. And what will happen if the Lord embraced the prince? Naturally, he will develop all the symptoms of love of God. And Mahaprabhu said, I have become very much obligated just by seeing this boy. So this is one principle that comes with advancement in our Krishna consciousness is gratitude. Um, um, just like one devotee, I went to Chicago and one devotee was telling about, he's a father and he's a grown-up father in a way, elderly father. So he has seen various phases of the children. And then he says how children feel is in the beginning, they think that my father is the hero. He's the only hero. And then the next phase comes where um, um, he starts seeing everything. He starts seeing other people, and then he starts seeing how his father is behaving, and then he feels like, my father is a hero, but there are other heroes also like my father. So my father is great, but others are also great. The next stage comes where the child feels others are actually little bit better than my father, and my father lack at these places. Then the next phase comes where my father doesn't know what's the right thing to do. My father is he's not really logical, and he doesn't understand me, and etc. Then when the child actually gets married and started earning and taking care of children, then the child feels actually my father was not so bad. I mean, there is so much trouble to take care of children, and my father went all this struggle, and my father actually loved me. And then the next phase comes where the child is grown up even further, and he feels like, my father was the best. There is nobody like my father. So one goes through these phases. In the beginning, my father is a hero, and then all the way to my father is actually not very useful person, and then come back to my father is actually a hero. So this is the phases that we go through in our Krishna consciousness also. And with our spiritual master, we may also go through these phases. If we have close dealings with our spiritual master, that my spiritual master is great, and then other spiritual master are also equally great and maybe greater, and it may go, especially if because um, um, familiarity breeds contempt, so it may go in that direction also, especially if one deals. That's why recommendation is stay away from spiritual master, because it brings problem if we are not very careful in our dealings, especially with spiritual master. um, so why I brought this is, as we advance in the beginning stages, we may have very high gratitude, but then gratitude starts to reduce further, reduce further, and then it keeps increasing, then increase further, then increase further, and everybody goes through these phases. And then at when we this is all according to our advancement in Krishna consciousness. Actually, unless we wear a particular shoe, we don't realize how difficult it is to wear that shoe. When we see from outside somebody else, unless we are not in their position, we don't realize how much difficulty, problems, what is their consciousness. We cannot realize that. But when we enter their position, then we realize, wow, actually, actually, it is great. So this is all actually with our advancement in our own Krishna consciousness. And at very advanced stages, even when our heart is filled with bhakti, because gratitude and bhakti are inseparable. Like my spiritual master says, Yugal Krishna Prabhu told me many times, my spiritual master says that gratitude does not give rise to bhakti, gratitude is bhakti. And this is actually a very, this line is displays the gratitude of Lord Chaitanya. Um, um, just, I mean, the child came and the child stood, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I have become very much obligated just because I've seen this word, because he reminded me of Krishna. Like many examples, like something, I mean, I'm sure every spiritual master, but I'm sharing about my spiritual master because I know about him. About many other spiritual master, I don't know. That's why I'm giving some examples. So the person who gave him the first plate of prasad was our Marathi Prabhu, our GVC. And he has such gratitude that this person gave me a plate of prasad. This person was the first person I met when I was in Europe, when I was hitchhiking to India. This person, by his mercy, I got a chance to serve some prasadam to my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. This flight, although the life was in danger, but this flight gave me opportunity to remember Krishna, because it was the situation where they said tighten your seat belt, something is not working in the flight, it's an emergency landing, and the flight may catch fire. So he said, I was very deep in my Krishna consciousness, really intensely praying because of situation. And I'm so grateful to that airline that I always travel through that airline only, because they made me remember Krishna. So the gratitude goes to such an extent that somebody who reminds one of Krishna a bit, the devotee who is in a very advanced stage of consciousness, he feels, I owe my life to this person because he spoke about Krishna. He made me remember Krishna. So this is again a state of consciousness, a very advanced state of consciousness. It all the good qualities will naturally develop by our advancement in Krishna consciousness, by the bhakti principle. As we keep watering the bhakti lata, as bhakti increases, these are byproducts. Like Lord Krishna says, these are various qualities, And then Srila Prabhupada mentions one does not have to strive to develop those qualities because one cannot develop those qualities. But one focuses on one's bhakti. Like it is said, there are 25 and 24 are Sarup Lakshan, 21 is Sarup Lakshan, and 24 is Tathastha Lakshan. Tathastha Lakshan means they are secondary qualities, and primary qualities is surrender to Krishna. And that will bring all the other 24. That's why they are secondary and this is primary. So everything will come just by our advancement Krishna consciousness. And here we see, uh, so I was many times I think like, how is it possible that such level of gratitude? And in our state, somebody, I mean, we may hear Krishna everywhere and then we will be critical to them also. I mean, so it's not really that consciousness, but that this consciousness of pure consciousness we are seeing by Lord Chaitanya. And Mahaprabhu said, I have become very much obligated just by seeing this boy. Um, After saying this, the Lord again embraced the prince. प्रभु स्पर्शे राजा पुत्रेदा हैला प्रेमावेशा स्वेदा कंपा श्रुस्तंभा पुलका विशेषा. As soon as the prince was touched by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, symptoms of ecstatic love immediately manifested themselves in his body. These symptoms included perspiration, trembling, tears, being stunned, and jubilation. So the boy received the mercy of the Lord, and then he started perspiring, trembling, because for a common man to uh, like to receive such ecstasy, naturally the common man cannot take it, and then he will start trembling. Trembling means unable to take that happiness. So he started trembling, and tears poured forth his eyes because the deep bhakti principle, and he was stunned because he could not know how to take. Just the ecstasy overcame his body and all the symptoms are occurring, and then he doesn't know what to do, so he was stunned. And jubilation, intense happiness, um, and this is all by the touch, the embrace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, immediate mercy. And and there it is also mentioned that Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. This is very, I mean, Prabhupada mentions the purport. I did purposely put, and he gives an example that somebody may be born naked, but it doesn't mean he has to remain naked for the rest of his life. Like as children, boys or girls, many times in their childhood they walk here and they are naked, like 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, or nobody cares. But when they are grown up, boys and girls, they're very careful to cover them. So um, um, just because someone was very sinful, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, he gives this example, and he says just because someone was very sinful in his previous life does not disqualify him to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is supremely merciful. That boy was an ordinary boy the day before, and the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he developed all the symptoms of ecstasy. So doesn't matter what is our consciousness today. It may be very much abominable, and we may have very sinful thoughts, or very fill in the blank sinful activities in the past, or even, I mean, I'm sure devotees live a very pure life, but the thoughts may be very sinful even today also. um, but it doesn't matter, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is all merciful. Just like the boy from common received mercy the next day, like Vaishnava Prabhupada says, if we can somehow or other try from our side, and if the Lord is pleased with us, then all of a sudden we may achieve what we are looking for. It can happen in a moment. Like our acharyas explain that our endeavor and Krishna's mercy progress. Our endeavor is 99% and Krishna's mercy is 1%. So we work very hard. We stretch ourselves. We do our best. And then it may feel like nothing is happening. I mean, I'm trying to do so much. I'm stretching myself so much. I'm doing whatever I could, but I'm not able to make any progress. And I'm still the same, and it feels like I'm further going down my Krishna consciousness. What is happening? So it may feel like We are putting so much endeavor and nothing is moving. It's not working. But then the fact is that this endeavor will attract Krishna's mercy. Krishna is noticing every single inch you invest in the service of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is noticing everything. He is watching you day and night. He is sitting in your heart. So one should not become disheartened that, I'm not able to make progress, because when the 1% of the mercy comes, that 1% will make you cross the bars right away. There are certain examples where they serve their spiritual master throughout their life, and at the moment of death, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed the entire Golok Vrindavan to them, and they went back to Godhead. Just at that one moment. So for Krishna, he can give his mercy in a moment, one moment. And that's why it's a life of sacrifice. When mercy comes, Srila Prabhupada used to say, when Krishna takes away, we cannot hold it. Krishna has 10 hands, we have 2 hands. And Prabhupada used to give this allegorical meaning. And he said, when Krishna wants to give you something, then you cannot hold it. How much can you hold? Krishna will give you with 10 hands and you have only 2 hands. And we see in the life of Srila Prabhupada, it's a continuous life of endeavor, like a life of preparation. He is just stretching himself to serve Lord Krishna throughout his life, and apparently he has no results. He's trying to preach and nobody is taking up Krishna consciousness. And he's crying, nothing seems to move. And then he's trying with Japan and Jhansi, and all endeavor seems to be futile. On the other hand, he is getting heart attacks. He is being kicked by a bull, and his rib bones broke. And then he doesn't even have money to go. He doesn't have money for breakfast. He doesn't have money to pay the rent. He has to live in a very austere condition. And then his business is burned, and everything seems to be a struggle. And his own god brothers are giving him a very much hard time. And everywhere he looks, his life seems to be a failure, apparently. So Prabhupada says, when Krishna wants to take away something, what can you hold? How much can you hold? But Srila Prabhupada showed by his own example, he's a Nitya Siddha devotee. But the reason we discuss about it, because just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to set an example, is his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. But then when he went to America, he was struggling so much. People stole his typewriter. One person drunk tried to kill him. He is trying to speak Krishna conscious philosophy, but Dr. Mishra did not even allowed him to give one lecture, and he would instead keep him out of his students. Nobody's willing to listen to him or give him an audience in Butler, Pennsylvania. And the host forgot their name. They didn't even want to keep Prabhupada in their home. So they gave him a home in YMCA without a kitchen. He had to go to their home in Butler, Pennsylvania to cook for himself. And then the amount of struggle, and then the visa is not extending, and all trouble. Prabhupada said, many times I was depressed. What do I do? And Prabhupada said, many times I would go to the sea, looking at the ocean and thinking, when is the next ship to India? When is the next ship to India? And maybe I should go. Prabhupada says, many times I had this thought, let me go back. Then Prabhupada said, but I persisted. I continued. And then when the mercy started flowing, it's like impossible. Still, he is continuously writing all the books. Whole night he is writing. He is doing everything he can. But when the mercy started flowing, then it's like, one kirtan, and he is a newspaper, and the whole New York knows him. And then the whole London, he just told 3 disciples, they went, and the Whole London became a blockbuster. All over world. He talked to one person. He started a temple in Fiji, and there is a whole big Rath Yatra in Fiji. So now, whatever he was touching, it was becoming like ashes. And now he touched one person, um, and then that person is supremely empowered just by coming in touch with Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tar Pravarta. Unless one is empowered by Lord Krishna, one cannot spread the message of Lord Krishna. So we should not, Srila Prabhupada showed by his own example, we should not be disheartened thinking there is nothing is visible, but everything will come back to you. Every single moment, sincerity pays. Like, in Hindi, there is a saying, forgive me, it's not Vaishnavism, but the principle is same. भगवान के दर पे देर है अंधेर नहीं. देर है means the result may come after some time. देर, it may take long time. अंधेर नहीं, everything is noticed. Every single mantra you chant, it's noticed. Every service you do is noticed. Every hearing, every reading, every Vaishnav seva, everything you do is noticed. And ye yathama prapadyante. And the Lord will reciprocate. But when and how, in which form, that is Krishna's will. So it is said that now, see, it may not come right away, but it will definitely come. We see the example of how much gratitude Krishna has. And we see here in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he saw the king and he's like, I'm completely obligated. And actually, we can understand the quality of Lord Krishna through the quality of pure devotees of Lord Krishna. See, I mean, when I see the gratitude in my spiritual master for everything he does, whatever gratitude a pure devotee has is actually coming from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. So the source of all gratitude is Krishna. And we see the gratitude of Lord Krishna, that he gave Putana the position of a mother in Vrindavan. How much grateful he is that he saw, okay, she came to feed me milk, although with envy, and he gave him. How much gratitude Krishna has that he saw that Aghasura acted like a playground for my friends, and he gave him a position Golok Vrindavan. So how much gratitude Krishna has. So, I mean, we hear that how much grateful Krishna is to all that we are trying to do to serve Lord Krishna in spite of so many difficulties, in spite against all odds. Um, um, but guaranteed, uh, every single moment engaged in serving Lord Krishna is noticed. Now, unfavorable service rendered to Krishna has such impact on Krishna, because Krishna is everything about Krishna is completely pure consciousness. We cannot understand Krishna with our consciousness. We may not have that gratitude, but see the gratitude of pure devotees. And that gives a glimpse of the gratitude of Lord Krishna, in spite of all the other pastimes that we have heard about how grateful Lord Krishna is. So, okay. Okay, I would like to stop here and then see if there are some discussion. If there are some discussion we can take. I think it's March only. Okay, so
Krishna Prabhuji, then one question Prabhuji. That's like in Vaikunta, like everybody is four-handed, right? Prabhuji, like in Golok Vrindavan, it's two-handed.
So question is, in Golok everyone is two-handed? Yes. That's all?
Yes, Prabhuji, I thought I have couple more. I forgot in 5 minutes.
Yeah. In Vaikuntha, everyone is four-handed. Yes. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. If I spoke anything wrong, please forgive me as your humble servant. My obeisances to all of you. One chakal patarudesha kripa sindhu evacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyanam ananta koti vaishnavendra ki jai. Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Prabhuji and Mataji. My grateful to all of you. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.